Hello, this is the Stories Beside channel. I release videos every day for you. Subscribe and click the bell. Maria, don't worry, we won't leave you. Yes, somehow. We have a friendly yard, everyone will help. The good-natured grandmother Clara consoled. The thin 15-year-old girl who sat at the table and stared meaninglessly at the plate in front of her. Her face was pale, and from her eyes slipped out every now and then large salty drops. Boring pancake, hungry all day can be jelly, gently suggested another old lady, Grandma Nancy, sitting on the right hand of Maria. Let me give you this jelly with mustard. I cooked it all day yesterday on a plate in front of Maria. Spouse piece, cold snacks. Grandmother thoughtfully added mustard slap. Pass the Clara, she asked her companion. But Maria never touched a thing. The piece wouldn't go down her throat. Before her eyes stood the image of her mother lying in a simple coffin of faith, skinny, haggard, dressed in her most dressy dress, old because there was no money for a new one. And she herself before her death asked to avoid unnecessary spending, not to spend money on a vestment for a worshipper in the other world. After all, as on earth one is not met by the clothes, but by the deeds. Grandma Clara, Grandma Nancy, bury me in a simpler, cheaper way. It's better to save money for Maria, the woman said. Anticipating her imminent death after her mother's death, Maria could not come to her senses for a long time. At the wake, she sat like a drowned in water. It seemed to her that everything that was happening was unreal, huddled between two cozy old ladies in black scarves, who sat down especially next to her to take care of the poor orphan. Maria felt at least a little protected. The elderly neighbors who lived with her in the communal apartment were her angels, guardians of the youngest age. They cared for the girl and always pitied her unhappy mother, who, as Grandma Nancy said, had a hard fate. Maria's father died under mysterious circumstances when her daughter was still very young. And then another misfortune, the factory, where she had worked all her life, closed. 6 months' wages were never paid. Many people in the town were on the verge of despair. Some drank themselves to death. Some people killed themselves. There were those who had lost their minds. There weren't many of those who had disappeared, if you take the dry, soulless percentage. But behind each tragic fate there was a whole story. People worked honestly, earning their bread. But someone more powerful allowed themselves to affect the fate of ordinary workers in a fatal way. Those who were morally stronger began to think about how to survive. Some of them became shuttle traders, some went into banditry. But as it turned out, many simply dispersed to larger cities, where there were prospects. The city began to decline rapidly. There was nothing for young people to do here. And there was nowhere to study. What was left here? A technical school. That's all. Maria was in her second year. She was supposed to be a fashion designer. Here, Maria, you're studying. Work pay, beautiful. Sew, for example, wedding dresses. It's a good profession. Always with money, said Grandma Clara. Maria did not like her future profession. True, she had absolutely no idea where she would work. Perhaps, as her grandmother advised, she would have to leave this town. A pity. It was nice and cozy here. It's true, it's a little boring sometimes, but there's no fuss. And the nature is so picturesque. Of course, in the off-season, it's dull gray, but in summer and winter the beauty. But will the little town that no longer has a mother still bring joy to her beloved? Maria did not know how to go on living. All the neighbors gathered around the table, as well as relatives. And some of us were sincerely mourning the deceased. Others were only interested in drinking. Some were wiping away their tears, and some were having a lively conversation. The usual story. At the wake, a burly woman with red hair came up to Maria, her paternal Aunt Betty. A scandalous promise that for money, her own mother would sell her. Maria, child, don't you worry. I'm getting custody of you. My poor girl, the aunt wailed. The old ladies looked incredulously at the dodgy relative. Grandma Clara looked at the woman through thick glass glasses that made her eyes look like two fish at the bottom of a lake. It made her face look funny. but very cute. Maria looked at Aunt Lucy too. She did not know what to answer. That and writing energy to the lady, because she did not trust her father's relatives at all. And when the woman went to her place, Maria said silence does not need me. She does not need anyone at all. How is it that no one needs me? Nancy's grandmother marveled. We do. But I am a stranger to you. What a stranger. We haven't taught you since you were a baby. Instead of grandmothers, we're to you. Clara. Maybe we should get custody of her ourselves. The old lady asked her friend. What is it? Grandma Clara waved her hand. No one will approve the registration for us. And look at the predator, this aunt. Is she going to give us such a piece of gold? With such relatives as at Maria ours, and the enemies do not need. The old ladies simultaneously sighed, and Maria cried. What would happen to her now? The wake was over, and she returned home. She still couldn't believe her mother was gone. It seemed as if she was about to hear her own voice from the kitchen. Maria, call the grandparents for a bake sale. We'll have tea, but no. Now there would be no mothers' clubs, no evening gatherings, no ladies' club. When the four of them with my mother and grandmother played bingo, and even if you really want to, even if to be good and do everyone nothing but good. She could not get her mother back for all the money in the world not to bring back the dear person. Maria understood that, and now she only had to do her mother's last will. You, my daughter, well, learn to be good, and be sure to become happy for yourself and for me. Quietly, she said goodbye. And Maria decided that she would do everything so that her mother, who was now looking down on her from heaven, would not be ashamed of her daughter. As the years passed, the grandmothers were right. Aunt Betty took custody of Maria for benefits, but ended up not helping the girl in any way. Instead, she persisted in her niece's room in the communal apartment. But the determined grandmothers threatened Luca that if she did not stop their activities, they would not be afraid of her. The red-headed bastards are pulling out. They don't have much power, but they will find some for such a noble cause. People advised to write a report on Betty to the appropriate authorities. They said that she had drawn up the papers, she was getting money, and she hadn't given the girl a piece of bread. Grandmothers did so and together wrote a joint appeal. Their eyes were after the room. Their fingers were shaking, but they still got the letter. There was no answer. Then the grandmothers wrote again with silence. Then they got a number. The appropriate services called. They were told that their application was being processed. After a long wait, the old ladies received the letter with the answer, which said that there were no claims to Betty as a custodian and that she performed all her tasks well. I see God has brought in a lot of money, Granny Clara said angrily. What a wretch. The girls have nothing to change into. We from the pension for a penny to her for winter boots, and this cow takes all the money of the magician. The financial situation of the old ladies and the orphan girl left much to be desired. They tried to save money on everything. They ate the simplest food and almost did not buy anything. In addition, Maria herself moonlighted wherever she could. That ad she branded, then sold ice cream in the summer. Nevertheless, the money went. The only thing they were always short of was a considerable financial infusion, demanded the repair of their old house, where everything was always leaking and crumbling. Also, regular trips to the drugstore made a hole in the budget. The grandmothers were in constant need of medicine. More than once neighbors helped out, bringing clothes and food for the orphans. They even gave me money a couple of times. Maria knew how to sew well. Out of her mother's old clothes, she managed to make new ones. And there were times when grandmothers helped out with fabrics from the old stockpile. Here's a sweetheart. She saved the manufactory, natural silk. Back in the good old days. Hardly got mad money. It cost more, and on top paid for it. All thought of making a dress for a special occasion, but it never presented itself. Maria took the fabric in her hands and held it up to the window. She looked at the light. It was incomparable. The natural Stefan glowed in the sun and was insanely pleasant to the touch. Really? There was a rag lying around too. And muff powder. Well, That's all right. It's worth a table and a wash. And such a beautiful dress can be sewn. By getting the patterns from my mother's magazines and putting the old but reliable Singer machine on standby, Maria set to work. She was going to make herself a dress for her graduation, which was just around the corner. She had always dressed very modestly, but now she wanted to make a dress that would make everyone gasp. She worked carefully, thoughtfully, without haste. Even though she had a specialty to clothes, Maria was very afraid to make a mistake. A few days of labor and the girl built herself a luxurious cut-off corset dress and built at the muzzle of the floor. But Maria admired grandmother. "This is the outfit outshone, everyone. I also want to wear my mother's pendant," said Maria, embarrassed. "That's right, for the day in memory of her mother," nodded Grandma Clara. "And the shoes for graduation, in what will you go?" Nancy's grandmother got worried. "I'll think of something. Maybe I'll wear my mother's." Maria shrugged. "No, that's no good," Grandma Clara protested. Faith's leg was wider. "And you have such a narrow stack. And her hair needs a haircut," nodded Grandma Nancy. "My girlfriend can do me." Maria waved her hand. "No, we have to go to a professional. Nancy, get it ready," instructed Grandma Clara. The grandmothers pulled out their stash and pulled out their finances. "Here's Maria. Take it." The old ladies solemnly announced that there would be money for your shoes and your hair. "Thank you, my dears, but why spend the last of it on shoes?" protested the girl. "There are some things that are memorable for life, and the prom is one of those things, and the shoes can buy such that would go under the dress. And then you can wear them in everyday life. You're a smart girl. You'll figure it out." Still, Maria did not abuse the generosity of grannies and decided to save money by buying shoes from the hands of giving them back to old women. At first, she wanted to borrow holiday shoes from a friend, but she could not fulfill her request. "My sister has a graduation party at school too." But it took a lot of money for her hair. Barbershop prices skyrocketed. It's high season, you see. They took advantage of the situation, so they had to pay a lot of money. But in the end, Maria was the prettiest girl at the prom. The blue dress was very sewn dark-haired girl with very fair skin and expressive blue eyes. The grandmothers even rejoiced when they saw what a princess their duck had turned into. On graduation day, Maria created a sensation. Everyone gasped when they saw her dress. Their curator, an unassuming blonde in her 40s, enthusiastically splashed her hands at the sight of her graduate. "Maria, I am delighted. It was not a coat you should have taken as a qualifying work. And this dress, though your coat is gorgeous too." "It turned out with a smile," she said. "Maybe. Except I need that dress too." Maria laughed. Maria graduated from high school with honors. She was a gifted student in her specialty, and the teachers loved her very much. They didn't even want to let her go. "Oh, Maria, how sad it is to part with you," they said. Maria was treated differently by her classmates. Some envied her grades, called her an upstart. Some treated her with contempt and even disdain because she was offended. Some were friends with her only to help her study. But Maria also had some good friends. Tim was one of them, the only boy in their group. The other boys made fun of him for going into a woman's profession, teasing him about his unconventional orientation. But the boy was sure that his vocation was to build exclusive clothes, and his orientation was as it should be. He focused only on girls, and pretty ones at that. Maria Tim was sympathetic. Her situation was not an easy one. She had always felt tenderness coming from him, but there had never been anything between them that resembled a relationship. Tim walked his classmates home a couple of times. "That's about it. What are you going to do after graduation?" Maria asked Maria the boy. "I'm going away," the girl said firmly. "There is nothing to do here." "What about Grandma?" the boy asked. "I'll write to them and send them money, and then I'll take them to my place," Maria confidently answered. "Wow, what are your plans?" praised Tim. "You bet," she laughed. "So where are you off to?" "They're waiting for me there. Tim said dreamily. They're waiting for me, she smiled. But they don't know that yet. But when I show them my talents, they'll know what they've been missing. Who do they need? Maria asked. And to everyone. From the world of big fashion, the prom was in full swing. The tipsy youths were partying in the disco. The girls were chatting merrily among themselves. They did not have to be bored without their boyfriends. At their technical school, there were workers who also had a graduation party on that day. So when they switched to a slow dance, all the people present broke into pairs and began awkwardly stomping around with Maria that night. A lot of people wanted to dance. It made her feel funny and unaccustomed. Before, no one paid attention to her. But tonight there was no shortage of guys. That hurt some of the girls, who used to think of themselves as college stars. They couldn't stand the sudden competition, so they shot Maria a hateful look every now and then. The girl herself hovered. She didn't notice. She knew she looked better than usual today, but she still underestimated her appearance. Her nose seemed too long. Her arms were bony. How pale. The graduate didn't realize she looked like a porcelain doll, just as dainty and fragile. But others noticed it, especially Tim, who the entire evening did not take Maria admiring looks. Several times the guy literally drove his classmates from under the noses of potential suitors, who were already hard to wait their turn to dance with the beauty. A couple of times he even almost got in the face for his insolence. Maria's triumph ended as suddenly as it began. One of the jealous, who noticed that Maria is dancing with Tim, to which she herself breathed unevenly jealous. The restrained maiden stepped on the hem of her long dress out of spite. Her rival Maria clumsily fell to her knees and was horrified to hear the cracking of the dress and the cackling of dozens of people a second later. The worst part was that it wasn't just the girls who rolled, but the guys who had dreamed of dancing with her just a minute ago as well. Maria stood up, feeling like tears were about to come out of her eyes. And then she realized that she was laughing not only at her fall, but at something else. Maria fumbled with the back of her dress and realized that it was torn, so much so that her pink cotton panties ended up on display. Apparently, all the same grandmother's fabric, from which the dress was made, had time to deteriorate in the trunk and could not pass the test of strength. What spicy lingerie do you wear under your evening gown? Are you seductive? It turns out that one of the girls laughed, not forgetting to shoot her shame on the phone. Maria got dizzy from embarrassment. She tried to find a way out, but she couldn't see anything. To the rescue came Tim, who threw his jacket over the fragile shoulders of his classmates. The length of his jacket helped cover the gaps. The girl looked at the guy with gratitude, and he put his arm around her shoulders and led her out of the hall, shielding her from prying eyes. As soon as they left the prom, Maria burst into tears. But why should I do this? Why am I so unlucky? A sobbing girl came out. Maria, don't cry. Almost no one noticed anything. The young man consoled her. Really? Yes, everyone saw my knickers, Maria exclaimed. Very nice panties, smiled back Tim. Inspirational. I wonder what for, she asked. That's what the boy answered and kissed her on the lips. It was Maria's first kiss. She felt dizzy with surprise and embarrassment, and her cheeks became densely flushed. What are you doing all of a sudden? She spoke in a confused voice. Maria, I really like you, the boy admitted. I'm sorry, but I have to go home, she said hurriedly. Can I leave my jacket? Until the walk home. You can come back for it later, all right? You won't let me walk you home? Asked the disappointed guy. No, I don't need to. She dropped her and hurried along the alley. Tim wanted to catch up with her, but then decided not to embarrass her. She'd had enough emotion for one day. Maria threw herself on her bed and cried all night long. The embarrassment at the party was a tragedy of world proportions. It was one of those cases that would make her blush even years later. Her grandmothers comforted her as best they could, and also cried with their beloved orphan. So they sympathized with her. But life is not a movie, where, as the characters of an old comedy said, You can make a montage. If something irreparable happens, you have to move on with your life. We can't go back. But Maria wasn't happy with that. She decided that this shameful incident would be a magic kick in the pants that would make her decide to move to a bigger city sooner. The girl had long ago made the decision to leave town immediately after graduation, but she was very scared. So she decided to take a break after graduation and just relax in the summer without worrying about anything. Walk around the park, go to the river, go with her grandmothers to mushroom in the woods. Simple joys. But after this incident, Maria firmly decided. Tomorrow she puts everything she needs in her suitcase and leaves. It is done. The old ladies wept bitterly as they accompanied their ward to the bus at the train station, holding each other's hand. Fat Clara and Skinny Hope. Together they wiped away the large tears that ran down their cheeks. Maria herself cried. She became unbearably bitter that she had to part with these kind old ladies who had replaced her family. I will surely come back, Maria said. To herself, I will. In the evening, Tim called at their apartment. In his hand, he held a bouquet of fluffy pink penguins. Good evening. Maria is home. I have come to fetch my jacket, he said, smiling broadly. Are you late, young man? In a buried tone, said Granny Nancy. No, no more our Maria. After these words, the old woman pitifully burst into tears. I could not believe my ears. Tim, had she done something to herself? Couldn't stand the shame. What are you talking about, Nancy? Pulled his friend Grandmother Clara. You say there is no more. There is it just not in this apartment and not in this city. Gone, gone. The guy stretched disappointedly, without even saying goodbye. So you're after the jacket? Grandma Clara continued. I'll look for it. Where did she put it? No, don't look for it. I'm in a hurry, said the boy, and handed it to Grandma Clara. The cheerful bouquet added, this is for you. Then he hurried away, trying to hide his annoyance above all from himself. The closer Maria was to the cherished city, the harder her heart was beating. She was overcome by feelings of joy and anxiety, anticipation of a new life, and fear of uncertainty. She had checked prices of accommodation while she was still at home, and concluded that only hostels were an option. The money was just enough to live in a hostel for a month and eat modestly. During this time, Maria really hoped to find a job. In general, the original plan was different. First to find a job, and then to go to the metropolis, not to an empty place. But after yesterday's embarrassment, she decided not to stay home. The thought flashed through her mind a couple of times. Did I rush it? Where am I going? What will happen to me? What if I don't get a job at all? But then Maria pulled herself together and drove away. Scratched the soul of the thought. The hostel turned out to be quite comfortable. Maria paid for a week in advance to pay for a whole month. I was afraid. Who knows, what if I do not like the city and have to leave urgently? The most important things, including money. I put the bag in the safe, shoved it under the bed. Today you can rest, and tomorrow already go ahead to look for a job. No time to waste. No time to take a break from the road. The girl decided to go for a walk. It was a little scary, because everything here is such a big stranger. But curiosity overcame fear. Maria felt as if she stepped into cold water. At first, there was a chill on the skin, but after a while there was nothing. You get used to it, you relax. Maria walked around until evening. She marveled at the grandeur of the big city. At home, everything is so compact and cozy, and here you feel like an insignificant insect. How do people live here? And people here are somehow different. Everyone is rushing somewhere, in a hurry. No one pays attention to anyone, and it's as noisy as it is here. It feels like even the air is humming. Maria was so keen on walking that she almost got lost, but she found her way back in time. She had not had as much excitement as she had had today. Perhaps in the few years of her life lived in her native city, the young provincial was so tired that when she came to the hostel, she collapsed on the bed and fell asleep. Maria woke up early in the morning, made herself some instant coffee from a 2-gram bag, brewed some instant noodles, and had a hasty breakfast, and sat down to browse ads. The internet came to her rescue. Maria called several ads seeking tailors for the atelier. But without work experience, no one wanted to invite her for an interview. That no one would take her anywhere. Cindy, the neighbor sitting on the next bunk, grinned. She was a thin, lanky girl with coal-colored hair. She was chewing on an apple with her big white teeth. But I just started looking for a job. Maria shrugged. There are no victories without failures. You're so smart. It's okay, you'll live here for a while. The city will break your optimism. Cindy muttered. Why do you say that? What are you trying to do? Maria was surprised. All right, don't be boisterous. The neighbor softened. I'll even give you free advice. There are millions of opportunities in this city. Have you gone to any other ateliers? You should be looking for something more interesting. What can be found here in my specialty without experience? Maria asked me, puzzled. It doesn't have to be your specialty. The main thing is to have a lot of money. And where is the money? We're the rich men. Cindy said authoritatively. I did not understand anything, Maria confessed. Oh, what a fool. You're a provincial, sighed Cindy. You just have to get married, you know, or find a patron. And then you don't have to do anything. A nice life. But I don't want that. I studied, I tried, I graduated with honors, and I'm only 18 years old. What men? What sponsors? As long as you're 18. The chances of finding a sponsor are the highest. You'll get a job when you retire at 35. That's assuming you can't find anyone good. If you get a good job, you'll live happily ever after, Cindy told her. Why don't you find a rich man yourself? Maria, who had had enough of this conversation, sneered. Cindy stopped crunching her apple and stared at Maria. The little girl. With disdain, she jumped. Yes, I had access to things you wouldn't dream of. I had everything. And what happened? Maria asked ironically. That's none of your business, I see. But I'll tell you one thing for sure. With this approach to life, this city will outlive you and spit, Cindy foretold, and with a disgruntled look left the room, throwing a stump on the floor at the feet of the neighbor. Maria just shrugged her shoulders and kicked the stump aside in the direction of the snail on the bed. She continued looking for a job. The girl did not expect it to be so difficult. She was invited for an interview, but in the end someone else was taken away. They'd promised to call her in a couple of days, and they never did. Every now and then Maria was overcome with a sense of panic. What if she didn't find anything? She wouldn't be able to pay for the hostel. She had only enough money for 3 weeks' accommodation. She expected to get a job in 2 weeks, and then get an advance, and then move to a decent place to live. But all the plans were about to collapse, and you came to us in production, sewing surgical gowns. A job with no qualifications. It's all just middle-aged, chubby shepherds. How much do they pay? Maria inquired. And when she heard the answer, she shook her head. No, it's very little. Look at you. Wendy was indignant. She doesn't like it. Well, let's go and look around. Maybe she's not so over the top. You will be. Maria paid for another week of hostels and realized how little money she had. She was already eating very modestly, like a bird. She bought nothing but the necessities of life. There wasn't even anything to save money on. A few more days passed in the search. Of course, some work can always be found in the big city, but as long as Maria will, for example, wash floors in someone's office, the chance to get a job in the specialty will be lost. But of course, if she does not find anything worthwhile in the near future, she will have to go anywhere, as long as they take her. For example, as a dishwasher at night, scrubbing plates, and looking for work during the day. One day, returning from another failed job interview, Maria found that the safe with her meager savings was empty. The travel bag with her belongings under the bed was also gone. Was your soul carrying you with sympathy? Asked Wendy. When Maria sobbed, sitting on the bed, the slippery wench. Well, at least you still have the documents. Of course, exclaimed the girl. I had them with me, didn't I? But how do you know it was the whip who stole the things? She was moving in today, and I didn't like her. Maria filed a police report, but I did not believe in a positive outcome. Besides, try to prove that it was the tile that did it. There were no cameras in the hostel, although there were posters in every public area. There was video surveillance, and the owners of the building across the street, where there were cameras, refused. Access to the recordings for such a thing would be a waste of time. You know, girls, stop coming to our place. So what? 2 pairs of underpants stolen and 3 rubles stash. Do you know what kind of cases we have here? You should be grateful that your report was accepted at all, the police told her. She had to accept the fact that she no longer had any money or clothes. What should we do? Ask grandmothers for money. Oh no, that's not an option. Why would they know that Maria was so stupid, couldn't take care of her things? Though did she think anyone would need her rags, especially a lady who could do things that Maria couldn't even dream of. Anyway, she didn't want to upset her grandmothers. They were old, and her heart was also worried. The worst thing would happen. Maria had no choice but to accept Wendy's offer and go to work in the mini shop she was talking about. That same day, she went to see her new place of work in the room where Wendy had brought her. It was amazing how so many workers could fit in there. In a row were tables with Swedes, typewriters, behind which the women sat and rebuilt not weighty floor transparent, Mr. Bond. In the corner was a table, next to which were cardboard boxes. At the table stood a girl neatly, but very quickly stacked finished products and then sent them to the boxes. The work was boiling. Everything was happening very quickly. Wendy took Maria to see exactly what had to be done. Was she amazed at how fast the seamstress was working? I see the stitching one side of the robe is ready to ski. The second line is ready another side of nothing. And that's how you learn, smiled Wendy. So, are you going to work for the boss? Maria nodded. Where was she going to go? No money at all. She had no money at all, except for a bun. The boss turned out to be strict, but nice. She promised that if Maria worked well, she would get a good salary. But when she voiced the figure, the girl realized that even the hardest efforts would not help her get rich here. Well, at least she can earn money for food and lodging, and then we'll figure something out. The next day, Maria took a new job. On the one hand, it was easy work. Even those who had never seen a sewing machine before coped with it. But to fulfill the norm was enormously difficult, and to exceed it to get more money was even more difficult. And then the back and neck ached from the lack of habit. It's okay. It's okay. He encouraged the new girl. Wendy, you're a young girl. You're pulling your weight. Well, if it hurts, it's no big deal. If it hurts, it'll stop. There are people sitting here at 60 years old, working and not complaining. Where else can they go? Wendy made a good point. Maria sighed. Yes, it seems to be her reality at the moment. She would have to work because she had no other choice. Maria sighed and continued to grow her gown, since her salary depended on how much she earned. Employees tried to do their best and open as much production as possible. Maria also tried to keep up, and when she came home, she fell off her feet from exhaustion. One day, after 2 weeks of work, Maria called her boss and told her girls, "Sorry, but the chief said that this month the same volume as last month will not be needed. A big customer fell away. So sorry, we cannot keep you. You new guys were doing a good job, but we decided to keep those who have been working with us for a long time. No offense." Another setback, Maria thought with annoyance. On the one hand, this monotonous work took a lot of energy and did not give any development. But here they were paid fairly, and Maria was sure of tomorrow, so that the sad thoughts would go out of her head. The girl decided to take a walk. Today she would not think about problems. She would put off her worries for tomorrow morning with a fresh head. She will think about where to get the money. She will start looking for a job again. As the saying goes, water cuts stones. She would have to be persistent. Maria, taking her time, walked down the street and looked in shop windows. In stores, as a rule, she was shy. She thought she had it written on her face that she had no money. "I'm a penniless hick. I just want to see what's possible." "No, you can't." She foresaw the answer of the sales clerk and shrank back. She hurried to skip the manage and her store, but passed by the bridal salon. Maria could not pass. She spent a long time looking at the dresses on display. She scrutinized every little detail, but that was not enough for her. She wanted to touch the fabrics, to see all this splendor closer about the fitting. She certainly did not dream. "I'll go in there," Maria firmly decided. "I'll tell her I'm getting married." And the groom promised to buy a dress. He asked me to pick one out. So I'm walking around, looking at it. Ugh, and who would believe this nonsense? I was annoyed with myself, Maria. It was obvious below that no one would ever marry me, but there was no turning back. She had already opened the door of the salon and stepped inside, instantly turning to the world of airborne ether. That was the impression she got from all those gorgeous dresses hung in a row or sneakers on a mannequin. Maria's eyes lit up. The staff was busy serving the customer, and Maria took advantage of their business to look at the wedding gowns, presented in every possible shade of white, with impunity. It was delightful. "Unparalleled," Maria whispered. A smile and admiration froze her face. Just then, she heard the voice of a customer who was standing on a pedestal at the back of the hall, looking into a huge backlit mirror, and was obviously dissatisfied about something. Even the frustrated girl dressed in a suspended dress was chubby, even seemingly pregnant, for sure she was pregnant. Maria walked sideways like a crab to crawl closer to unobtrusively eavesdrop on the conversation. There was obviously something interesting going on stage. Couldn't anything be done? The sobbing was howling. "Bride." "Unfortunately, nothing. We've already widened the dress. There's no way to do it again," the counselor replied. "Daughter, but do not cry." The mother comforted the girl. "How not to cry? I was waiting for this very dress. I paid money for it. And then suddenly my belly started growing. You survived once, didn't you?" "Well, I didn't think I'd get fat again," the bride complained. "Oh, honey, it's normal at your age. But it's your own fault. Who told you to do that? Eating ice cream by the pound. But there has to be a limit to everything. And these arms, they're getting loose. And my breasts are falling out of the elevator. It's horrible. It's like I'm all made of dough. What should I do? The day after tomorrow, the wedding, and nothing is ready." I read the miserable. "I'm sorry." I couldn't stand Maria. Scared of her impudence. "You've chosen a beautiful empire dress. It's perfect for pregnant women. And you can embroider it, even if it seems like there's nowhere else. And I know how. And as for the arms and chest, if you want to cover them up, you can always sew on gas sleeves. They will be loose, like wings. It won't weigh down the image and won't spoil the composition of the outfit." The client listened to Maria with her mouth hanging open, and when she had finished her sentence, she clumsily walked over to Maria and put her hands together in a prayerful gesture. "Dear lady, you will help me, won't you? Will you help me?" she asked. Maria was at a loss. Actually, she just wanted to advise what to do in this situation. She offered her services. "I'm sorry, but I don't work here." Maria became Maria. "Well, how did you tell everything so well? Who's going to help me?" Pregnant exclaimed. "Do not be nervous." So daughter, scared for her mother. "Let's go away for a second," Maria suggested, a thin, elegant woman in her 50s. She took Maria by the elbow and led her away. "Can you really fix that dress?" strictly she asked. "Yes," said Maria. Stuttering, "Are you experienced at it?" asked the woman a question. "Yes." Unexpectedly, Maria lied. "Do you have a portfolio?" The woman continued her questioning. "No," she shook her head. The woman stared at her from head to toe, as if she was chanting. "Do you know how much that dress cost?" she asked and pressed her lips into a thin band. "I don't know." but very expensive, guilelessly, Maria replied. If you ruin the clients, the dress will work for me for a year, free of charge, I understand. But if you alter it successfully, I'll hire you and pay you well, the woman promised. The bride managed to take off her dress, and Maria took it with trembling hands. No one is forcing her. One could refuse, but she decided it was a chance to either make or break. I agree, Maria said. She took the necessary measurements and promised that the outfit would be ready tomorrow. When the customers had left, the thin lady turned to Maria. Now I'll ask the assistant for fabric. You'll work. You'll sew here. We have a working room. You will be under the supervision of my assistant in private. I won't leave you in the salon with the dress. My name is Evelyn. I hope we'll get along well, girl. Maria's heart was racing. Suddenly, she was scared and wanted to run away. At the same time, she wanted to work with the magic dress and make the bride a real princess. Maria was so sympathetic to this sweet pregnant woman who was crying so hard because her dream dress didn't fit. No, she would definitely help. The assistant arrived quickly, in time to buy the missing materials. It turned out to be a very nice girl of about 23 named Kelly. She looked informal with square, horn-rimmed glasses, colorful hair, piercings. Hi, Kelly smiled. I'm Evelyn's assistant. If you need anything, you come to me. Evelyn is a busy girl, and she doesn't need to be disturbed for no reason. Kelly escorted Maria into the room, which was a creative mess. She handed out materials and dresses. Here's the work. And don't forget, you can't sneak out. I'm not leaving until the job is done. If anything goes wrong, don't keep quiet. Tell me right away. Okay, Maria nodded and got to work. The work to be done was painstaking. Everything had to be done so that only the dress was embroidered with inserts, but it had to be invisible to the naked eye. Look, Maria turned to Kelly. Why can't she take the other dress too? Why such a tragedy? In fact, why is this dress so important? Because this dress came straight from Hollywood. Our bride is a fan of the sitcom Cherry Love Syrup, and so her favorite character got married in this very dress. She wanted one just like it. Oh, really? Straight out of Hollywood. Maria opened her mouth. Maybe she did. Maybe she didn't. Evelyn got the dresses for a lot of money. Maybe she ordered them from an atelier somewhere. I don't know. Kelly shrugged her shoulders indifferently. In fact, it's possible that the dress may not have cost as much as Evelyn asked for it. But she's a real piece of work. She can cheat a client if she sees that he is willing to generously pay for his whims. All that matters is that the client is happy. The rest is not important. Those were her words, by the way, Kelly said meaningfully. Maria was so focused on her sewing that she even forgot about the skew. She just didn't feel hungry. Not even a drink of water. 8 hours she worked, and finally the dress was finished. True, it was already deep into the night. Maria went out to a full house, illuminated only by the lights of the shop windows and the street lights. Occasionally at night the store let fly by, but as a rule the ornate window display pleased passersby even at night. Evelyn's assistant slept serenely on the couch. Kelly called softly to Maria, but she did not respond. Then she touched her shoulder and called louder. Kelly, why are you yelling in my ear? I'm not. Woke up Kelly. I finished the work, proudly reported Maria. Well, cool. Well done. So, Evelyn will be satisfied. Let's do something. There's no point in going home. It's late. Or is it too early? Too late. I suggest we sleep here on the couch. I agree. Sit down. I'll make you some coffee. Have you even had sandwiches today? No. Look, I didn't think to suggest it. Well, I'm used to not getting involved when you're not asked. And for your future, if you have something to say, don't wait for others to figure it out. Maria chewed a sandwich and admired the fabulously beautiful wedding gowns, noble, giving them a dim light. Dash, which dress do you like best? Maria inquired. None, yawned Kelly. How? Maria was surprised. Like this, if I were getting married, I'd wear a black dress or a dark blue one. With those, ripped edges, and the fabric would be lightweight. I saw one like that on the internet recently. By the way, it's so hilarious. I'll find the video and show it to you, Kelly. I went through my phone and turned on the video. First thing I heard was Maria, the sounds of a party. Look, the dress is amazing. The situation is weird, but it's funny, said Kelly, holding out her phone to her new acquaintance. Maria, aghast at the video, was on her blue dress and pink panties. The girl is good, of course. By the way, I like big, cotton panties too. It's a trend right now, It doesn't pinch anywhere. Generally speaking, men invented all kinds of lace underwear so that we could give them pleasure with our looks. But in the 21st century, a woman should think about her comfort. Look, what's wrong with you? Kelly interrupted herself. Are you not wearing a face? Wait. You're the one who, instead of answering Maria, covered her face with her hands and sobbed. She was so ashamed. Are you silly? Kelly laughed. Look, how many views are you getting now that you're blogging? Instantly shot up. Are you a star? Oh no, I'm ashamed. Terrible, sobbing Maria. You should read what they write. A lot of people defend you, and there are people who love your dress. They ask where they can get one just like it. Oh, here's someone who writes the most beautiful girl on the planet. P.S. The author deleted this video. Nick Tim. Maria with a twitch of her eyebrow. Tim. Next, the author's responses. Continued reading. Kelly late. The video had already gone viral all over the internet, but Maria was no longer listening. She was remembering Tim for sure. He was 100%. He had written in public that she was the most beautiful girl on the planet. He wrote that I was the most beautiful, Maria muttered. You say that like you've never heard compliments, Kelly grinned. Never. Maria answered sincerely. Well, some people did, but not like that. In high school, no one ever paid attention to me. I was the only one who made a splash at graduation, she sighed. Are you serious? Here's silly, such a pretty girl does not believe in themselves. She'll take whatever dress she wants, Kelly said, and pointed with a broad gesture toward the outfits. Yes, but Maria doesn't seem to want to touch them. Why are you so indecisive? Come on, get a dress. Maria chose a luxurious dress in cream colors, changed her clothes, and went to the catwalk. Amazing. Kelly marveled. Let me turn on the lights. Wait. The harsh light hit Maria in the eyes. Anya, go spin it, Kelly demanded. Maria began to nursing the pedestal, while her new acquaintance filmed what was happening on the phone and hung generous compliments. But no one has ever complimented me as much as you have. Maria laughed as she hung the dress back on the mannequin. She chatted with Kelly some more, and then said she was very sleepy. So lie down, she suggested, pointing to the couch. I'll get a blanket and lie down next to her. As my grandmother used to say, the ballet will fit. The girls went to sleep, and Maria instantly fell into a deep sleep. She did not even notice how morning came. Kelly was in no hurry to wake up either, enjoying her 10th nap. Both didn't notice Evelyn come into the parlor at the heel of her mouse. She grinned. Rise. The sun is high, client close. The girls jumped up on the couch and nearly bumped their foreheads in surprise. Maria started wiping her eyes, not immediately figuring out where she was. I expect a dress from you, Evelyn said, looking sternly at the young one. Yes, she muttered, trying to collect her thoughts. But Kelly beat her to it. She ran to the workshop and brought out the finished outfits. Look, this girl has golden hands, she said admiringly. Evelyn looked at the dress, then looked at Maria. What a job, well done, I commended. Now let's see what the client has to say. Maria was not disappointed with the bride's reaction. The dress really did fit her. The main thing is not to postpone more weddings. Otherwise, I'll have to expand again. And then I'll have to give birth. Laughing pregnant client. She and her mother left very happy. and the owner of the salon called Maria and handed her an envelope. "Take it. This is your fee for the work. Rest today, and tomorrow come here at 8. We open later. But I still need to get you up to speed. You'll work for me," Evelyn told Maria, without asking if she wanted to. She didn't have any doubts. Of course she did. As she left the salon, Maria looked into the envelope and gasped. There was the amount of money she earned in a week in her robe shop. All questions fell away by themselves. She was coming to work at the salon tomorrow. Apparently, the city had tested her, discarding the trials at the outset and concluding that she was worthy of getting her lucky ticket. At the appointed time, Maria arrived at the salon. Here, Evelyn was waiting for her alone. Kelly was not there. The hostess began to show the newcomer what was there. She explained her duties. Maria was not yet trusted to serve clients. Her duties included the finalization of outfits. If it was necessary to correctly measure or decide something, she had to do it perfectly. This is what an elite salon is for. Not simple people come here, sometimes with such whims and requests that sometimes you have to drink valerian. But the dressmaker was offered a very attractive salary, which could not but please and inspire her, especially in her situation. In fact, as often happens when you get a job, at first you are promised one condition, but in fact it turns out to be quite different. No, Evelyn did not cheat. Maria paid the money on time, and there was no penalty system in her store. True, there was a system of reprimands. If the landlady didn't like something, she could go to pieces all day long. Maria was upset at first, and Kelly, waving her hand, said, not paying attention, just nodding her head, faithfully looking into her eyes. In the morning, she would forget that you messed up. In short, Maria gradually got involved in the work, got used to the demands of the mistress, and began to feel more confident. And not only in the workplace, but also in the city as a whole. She had some money and bought herself some clothes. The clothes she wore were tasteful and expressive, accentuating Maria's figure and the noble features of her beautiful face. But the best part of the good salary was being able to help her grandmothers with money. Maria sent them money and promised that she would help them every month. The old ladies refused, but their objections were not accepted. The orphan wanted to thank them for everything they did for her, and just to help the kind old ladies. She really wanted to. One day, a tall, cocky guy walked into the bridal salon, with hair so carefully styled that Maria felt shot against his backdrop unreal. He was about 25 years old, no more. And the grandfather was like a typical hero of some American action movie black box office. Jeans, alcoholic t-shirt. "Hi," he said with a smirk, looking around Maria from head to toe. "You're new here." "I've been working for over a month now," she shrugged. "I see. And where is Evelyn?" he asked. "She should be here soon. You must be her son." She was glad of hers, Maria guessed. Kelly had told her that their boss had a grown-up son who had studied abroad and should be back soon. "Aha, a son." The boy grinned. "Well, I'll wait for her outside on my bike. I don't feel comfortable in the midst of your flesh, which makes me feel uncomfortable about marriage." He turned, and with the gait of an alpha male, headed for the exit. "Son," with a sneer, he repeated. Kelly came out of the workshop. "Maria, I seem to have messed up the ribbon in there. You'll have to redo it. I told you I had hooks in my hands," she reported cheerfully. "Listen, it looks like Evelyn's son came to see me. He's a bit cheeky. He's even cheeky," Maria reported, letting the information about the ruined ribbon slip past her lips. "Dressed like a cowboy. An amateur from the 90s. Kelly clarified. "Looks like it," nodded Maria. "So it's not the son. It's her lover, her Arthur," Kelly said in a casual tone. "You didn't believe your ears." Maria. "Well, what did you think?" "At 62, Evelyn doesn't give up," Kelly laughed. 62. Maria was surprised again. "I thought she was 48, 50, but not 62. "Yes, she's a cucumber," Kelly laughed. "But that's not surprising. How many cosmetic procedures does she get? She could look 25. Evelyn, don't tell me what I told you. She once had me buy tickets for her and gave me her passport. So I found out. So she had her son late. How old did you tell them? 24, continued Maria's curiosity. Her son was late and fervently loved, but was brought up in strictness under the heel. Lived in a golden cage. I can imagine how he had a blast overseas when he went there away from mommy control, grinned Kelly. But Arthur closes the box with it as he pleases. You should have seen him at first, the modest little provincial boy, old frayed pants. And then, lo and behold, a rich aunt feeds him and educates him, gives him money for clothes and clubs, willing to do anything for him. Yeah, Maria thoughtful, surprisingly thoughtful. And then she was distracted by something else. Useless information about the young lover of the boss instantly went out of her head. Why did she need someone else's problems? She needed to deal with her own. Maria would know. Then what role would this femme fatale play in her life? One day, Evelyn came to the salon in the company of another young man. He wasn't dressed like Arthur, but it was obvious that the things he was wearing were expensive. Fancy hairdressing. The guy clearly wasn't into art either. His hair was sloppy. Maria was bribed by the good-natured face of the guy. Apparently, the guest also noticed the attractive girl and greeted her with a nod of his head. Who is this? A new lover? Maria whispered. Kelly, silly. A friend giggled. It's her son back. See how happy she is now, kind girls. The work day is over. Come to the table. There's liquor, cheese, candy. My Kevin brought it, said a happy Evelyn. It was obvious that the guy was embarrassed, but he kept his mouth shut. The appetizers were placed on a small glass coffee table poured over a glass of liquor. Maria drank, and the paint immediately stuck to her cheeks. Oh, it's delicious. With enthusiasm, said the girl. So drink more. Kevin encouraged her and filled her glass again. No one would have thought she'd be so chuffed from a couple of glasses of liquor, but Maria hardly ever drank in her life. So alcohol. In her head. Well done, Marinka. Ironic, praised Evelyn. And how are we going to work tomorrow? I do not know, carelessly replied Maria. But I feel so good now. That's all right, said Kevin. Sometimes it's okay to relax. Maria, I'll take you home. Don't worry about it. I haven't been drinking at all. Well, of course you didn't, Evelyn said. And apparently no one's taking my mother home. So you're in your own car, smiled Kevin. I've been drinking, too, actually. You've taken to arguing, Evelyn. Yeah, but you haven't had much to drink. It's not the first time you've driven, the guy said confidently. Yes, I have. Evelyn snorted. My own son makes me risk my life. Okay, let's call the party off. Let's go home. Everyone went outside together. Kevin invited Maria into the car, opened the door, and I lit up. Kelly gave me a ride, too. Kevin, especially since Maria and I live at the same address. Kelly wasn't lying. They did live together in the same apartment. Maria said she wanted to leave the hostel, so her friend offered to move into her rented apartment instead of her recently ex-roommate. The girl happily accepted the offer. It was much more comfortable than the old place, and with her friend she became very close friends. Life was much more fun. Kevin drove the girls to the driveway. We stood around for a while, talking, giggling. Maria was a little tipsy, and it was very funny. Kelly, who had never seen her friend in such a state before, did he like you? Kelly smiled. When he and Maria went up to the apartment, you should have looked at him. He's a nice guy. But the girl didn't think about looking at anyone. She didn't believe she could like a guy like Kevin at all. But Kelly turned out to be right. He really had his eye on Maria, so he often stopped by her mother's bridal shop, and at closing time, to escort the girl home. Delicate Kelly always refused when the son of the boss offered to give her a ride for company. She did not want to be the third extra. Kevin and Maria's date happened more and more often. The young man saw that the girl was very modest. He was attracted to her, so he did not rush things. But on each date they kissed, and every time they kissed, her heart sank. Kevin was also her prince hero from the fairy tale, who rescues Cinderella. One day the boss's son suggested, "And let's go to the villa, while the weather is still nice. There's something to eat. We cook, we eat, we steal apples from the neighbors." Okay, I'm kidding about Apple's neighbors. They have an aggressive pug. That's a great idea, if Evelyn doesn't mind. "And we'll take Kelly?" Maria asked. "No," smiled Kevin. "We won't take Kelly. She's not my girlfriend, you are." Maria instantly blushed from her heels to the roots of her hair. "I'm your girlfriend with a sinking heartbeat," she interjected. "Well, who is?" Kevin laughed. "Only Mom doesn't know about it yet. There will be a surprise." Maria sensed in her gut that this surprise would not please Evelyn, but surprisingly, she reacted calmly. When her son brought her assistant to the Villa Maria, "It's good that you came to help me with the preservation," Evelyn informed. "Does not leave the girl no choice." "Mom, well, why do you need these preserves?" Kevin pleaded. "Don't argue," said Evelyn sternly. "I also, up to a certain age, did not understand why we need a cottage and a vegetable garden. I inherited this house and a plot of land from my father, the general. But then I realized that nothing compares to produce grown on one's own land. With love. I got it. I got it, Mom. Tell me what to do. I'll help you too." Kevin sighed doubtfully. Whither Maria and I first rested from the road. Suddenly he saw Arthur, who was lazily watering a flower with a hose. "Oh, and he's here," muttered Kevin. "Yes," Evelyn answered with a challenge. "You know, ever since you came back, the poor boy has been forced to live at the cottage." "All right, Mother, I'll get an apartment so I can stay out of your way." "Enjoy life," Kevin promised. "There aren't any apartments yet. I haven't seen you for so long. I've missed you so much. Besides, I want you to be looked after," stated the woman. "Mom, I'm 24 years old. I can take care of myself," tiredly muttered Kevin. It was obvious that this was not the first time they had had this conversation. "No objections. That's out of the question. You'll live with me for now," concluded the overbearing mother. "All right, Marin, let's go." The boy sighed and took the girl by the hand. Kevin gave Maria a tour of the grounds. The flower beds were beautifully manicured, the alpine rockery, and the mini pond with fish. Obviously, the landscaper helped a lot. The vegetable garden, too, was well-groomed, neat, and the greenhouses looked like small crystal houses. "It's a beauty," Maria marveled. "Have you been inside the house yet?" The boy smiled. The house was indeed impressive, both outside and inside. The interior was done in a Scandinavian fabric style. Rugs on the wooden floor, lots of copper utensils, a large stove that you could even cook on. "Are you staying the night?" asked Maria, who came out of the kitchen. Evelyn. "Yes," Kevin answered for her. "Yes," Kevin answered for the girl. Evelyn was happy. "There will be more to do." Kevin invited the girl upstairs and showed her his bedroom. The room was spacious and very comfortable. "Look how big the bed is. Enough room for two," Kevin smiled. Maria didn't answer and just lowered her eyes in embarrassment. "Do you want us to sleep together tonight?" Kevin asked. But the girl was even more embarrassed. "Okay, I don't rush you, but I hope we'll sleep together tonight." "Maria, but where are you?" "I'm waiting, aren't I?" Evelyn's impatient voice was heard. "Coming," the girl shouted, and slipped out of Kevin's arms. Off she went to the first floor. Immediately, she received hundreds of orders from her future mother-in-law, who was covering vegetable assortments and sweet confetti. Her grandmothers had taught Maria how to make preserves, so she hurried to get to work. The work in her hands argued, and Evelyn was very pleased. She even entrusted the girl to manage the kitchen by herself, and she went to the gazebo to drink mojitos together with Arthur. Kevin, meanwhile, was working in the vegetable garden. "Mom, why did I go all day? Is your Arthur chilling in comfort?" Kevin asked. Arthur was tired. He was watering the flower bed. Especially today he visited the gym, replied his mother nonchalantly, and her lover gave Kevin a smug smile. I went to the gym today, too, the boy reported. But you don't try as hard as Arthur, insisted Evelyn. Look at his muscles and your own. So Kevin wouldn't have any doubts. Arthur tensed his biceps, played with his muscles. It all made sense, said the annoyed guy and waved the sweet couple off. Can I get you another mojito? Arthur asked his age mate. I wouldn't say no, he nodded. That. Arthur went into the house and ran into Maria in the kitchen. There you are playfully, he said. Hello, Arthur. Coldly, the girl greeted him. How serious are we? Lusciously, the handsome man smiled and pinched Maria's back in passing. The girl squealed. The cheeky man laughed, taking what he had come for. He left the house and headed for the gazebo, leaving Maria utterly bewildered. She was uncomfortable with the familiarity of her boss's lover, but she was afraid to complain to anyone. Kevin is jealous. Evelyn will not believe her. Arthur will even say that she herself slapped him, decided to keep quiet. But if that brat ever comes at her again, Maria shot him in the eye. Not afraid. In the evening, Evelyn sent Maria to sleep in the guest room, and the girl was very happy about it, because she was embarrassed to sleep with Kevin. He tried to lure her to his room, quietly knocking on the door when Evelyn went to sleep. But Maria did not react, pretending to have fallen asleep. The next morning, they all ate breakfast together and got to work again. Maria went back to winter preserves, peeling vegetables, cutting and closing them in jars. She had time to help out on the property, too. And around the house, Evelyn heartily praised the hard-working girl. Kevin, on the other hand, protested with all his might against this exploitation. Maria, stop working. Take a break and sunbathe, he said. What do you say, girl? It's not hard for me at all. I want to be useful. Kevin only rolled his eyes. Well, is it possible to argue here? Arthur, watching all this, only laughed. He managed, doing nothing, to create the appearance of work, and ended up being the most industrious of all present, at least in Evelyn's opinion. Until the dacha season was over, Maria regularly came to visit the villa and did her best to help her future mother-in-law. Yes, praising the girl and saying that she could not have done without her help. The bridal salon at this time remained on Kelly. Pity you with us? No, sighed Maria on her way home from the cottage. No, thank you. Not only did I go to Evelyn in the salon, I had to work on her vegetable garden, Kelly answered. But I don't feel comfortable saying no, said Maria. The future mother-in-law, after all. I wouldn't call it that if I were you. If she's your future mother-in-law, then let her groom you. Otherwise, she'll be treated like a slave. But Maria didn't listen to her friend. She rolled up her sleeves and diligently helped Evelyn at the cottage. There was a lot to do. She had to do the cleaning before the winter to prepare the site for winter. There was plenty of work to do, too. The last day, when the first cold of November hit, it was decided to celebrate the closing of the dacha season. Barbecue to spend time in the cozy atmosphere of the living fire, returned to the warm plaid and sipping fragrant mulled wine at the cottage. This time there were not only family members. Evelyn invited a few close friends, among whom was her longtime friend with her daughter Christina. In the presence of this confident, spoiled girl, Maria felt uncomfortable. After all, she was a spectacular girl, statuesque, well-dressed, and an obvious frequenter of beauty salons. But the most outstanding thing about her was her hair, curly, lush, like a block, and long spouse's lovely windows. Everyone who saw this hair sooner or later asked Christina to let him touch it. So attractive they were. The only thing that didn't give Maria confidence was the amorous look in Ki Yan's eyes and his affectionate embrace. The boy nursed his sweetheart, brought a plate, poured coffee. The evening was cozy, though chilly, but a lively fire keeps the whole company warm. Here you go. I recommend Lex very well with meat. Maria closed it herself. She's great at it, Evelyn said, opening a can of preserves. I see Maria likes Kevin very much. She is his fiancée. Christina's mother asked. No, that you laughed, Evelyn. Maria is just my helper. She's an orphan. She has no one. So we take care of the poor thing. At least let her go to the villa to breathe the air. No one's good enough to be my daughter-in-law. Christina would be perfect for that role. Maria almost choked on her own hand-cooked leeching at those words. She thought Evelyn was her future mother-in-law. And she had taken her for a free laborer, who, on top of that, was getting a thrill out of hard work. Kevin did not hear this conversation. He had just stepped away to talk on the phone. He had recently landed a job with an international company that he had dreamed of working for a long time, and soon he was to have his first important business trip. That's why he kept on talking over the phone about the small and large questions connected with the future trip. Maria had nothing to do but silently swallow resentment. But soon Evelyn stunned the girl with more news. Maria, you go home tonight for the night. Don't stay. I'll call you a cab. I need you to be at work tomorrow in time for the opening. It's not hiding from Kevin ears anymore. What's the matter? Mom, why does Maria have to leave? I need her at work tomorrow, Mother replied. But no, she must rest. Besides, I'll be leaving soon. We want to be together before we leave. At these words, Christina is not happy. And Evelyn grimaced. But she won't even have a place to sleep. All the guest rooms will be occupied. The woman objected. There's plenty of room firmly enough on my bed, Kevin said. She'll sleep with me. Evelyn's lips quivered with annoyance. She felt embarrassed in front of her guests for this family scene. Do what you want on permanent security, said the woman, and waved her hand. She spoke no more that evening, neither to Kevin, much less to Maria. In the late afternoon, when everyone had gone to their rooms, Kevin took Maria by the hand and led her to his room. I need to go to the bathroom, quietly poked the girl. I have a bathroom in my room. Let's take a shower together. Kevin smiled. Maria got nervous, but didn't refuse. She already wanted to try intimacy with Kevin herself. The girl was head over heels in love with him and was ready to take it to the next level. But still she refused to take a shower together. Ashamed, but nothing, Kevin replied. We still have a long way to go. But Maria came out of the bathroom wrapped in one towel. Wow, Kevin marveled. Embarrassed and hiding Maria's eyes under a warm blanket and covered up to her neck, she threw the towel on the floor. Looking at this, Kevin's mouth dropped open. Wow, I'll be right back, he said, and ran to the shower. He came out with only one towel too, climbed under the blanket, and did the same trick with the towel as Maria. The girl mustered her courage and pressed herself against his warm body. Their lips joined in a kiss, and what followed was so good that it took her breath away with delight. Every day spent with the man she loved gave Maria more happiness than she had experienced in her entire life. Sometimes the girl caught herself thinking that with Kevin, she forgot about everything, even about her beloved grandmothers. She started calling them less often. Sometimes she forgot to send money, then fed herself, then forgive. But she is so young, and so want to be happy. No wonder it all makes her dizzy and confused. When Kevin left on a business trip abroad, Maria languished alone in their apartment, which the guy, after a heated argument with his mother, still rented for them. True, there was no rest for Evelyn either. She often came to visit the young people, and all the time she received the girl, pointing out her provinciality. Previously, before her son officially declared his love for Maria, Evelyn treated her much better and was not reproached by her origins. Now she was eating her up with a train. That Maria dressed the wrong way, going the wrong way, says the girl, decent tired of it, but tolerated. She did not want to quarrel with an overbearing woman. But when Evelyn showed up at their apartment in the company of Christina and her mother, Maria could no longer hold back. Excuse me, why don't you have your guests in your apartment? Why are you taking them to ours? She asked. Come on, Maria, Christina, and Kevin have been friends since the sandbox. She has a right to visit her childhood friend, Evelyn explained patiently. But he's not home right now, Maria exclaimed, pointing out the obvious fact, and that we wait for him. Christina shrugged and leaned back in her lush, cloud-like curly hair. The uninvited guests sat down on the sofa. Maria, a cup of tea, and a sandwich for us, Evelyn thought. Ordered. Green tea for me, Christina smiled. And I'll have a coffee with milk. Her mother waved. The kitchen is this way, Maria answered abruptly. Tea, coffee, boiling water, bread are all at your disposal. There is food, and preferably also in the kitchen, not in the room. I ate a vacuum cleaner the other day. Wow, someone's teething, Christina remarked wryly. And not just any teeth. Actually, I have to go. Do you want to stay? Maria blurted out. She took her bag and left the apartment. Good thing it was the end of May, and the girl did not have to get dressed to make this spectacular gesture. She was in such a hurry that she didn't notice Arthur, who was standing there looking like a king, admiring the reaction of passersby to the expensive car, his patroness. She ran at him with all her might. Hey, why don't you see where you're going, baby? Arthur laughed. Ugh, here you are, angrily grumbled Maria. Look how strict you are. The boy laughed. Where are you going in such a hurry? He said and put his arms around Maria and pulled her to him. Let me go, protested the girl. But her resistance only amused her. What a stubborn kitty. Laughing, he suddenly, unexpectedly, the boy heeled and kissed her on the lips. The girl was so angry that she did. The first thing that came to her mind was to charge her face with his knee between her legs. He didn't immediately realize what had happened, but after a few seconds, he cried out in pain. Oh, you bitch, he moaned. Maria took advantage of the situation and threw herself on the iron. Suddenly, some force made her look back. The girl turned around and looked out on her balcony. From there, she could see Christina's lush hair and the owner herself, who was filming what was happening on her phone with a chuckle. The viper burst out Maria. But the curly-haired maiden, of course, did not hear that. Gradually, the annoying Christina in Maria's life became more and more. One day, the pushy girl came into the bridal salon the evening before closing time. She knew Kevin would be here too. He always came at this time to give his sweetheart a ride home, and to give her friend Kelly a ride too. Hi there, Kudryashova sang cheerfully, and I was just passing by. Decided to stop by and admire the outfits. I see you're here too. Nice coincidence. Christina took her elbow and sat her down next to her on the sofa and began to say something emotionally, watching her rival flirt with her fiancé. Maria was not easy, so she went into the studio. How I hate that Christina. Maria gritted his teeth. Kelly nodded understandingly. Nasty girl. Suddenly, there was a loud laugh from Christina. The girls looked at each other. Come on, girl, let's get this weirdo back to war, or they'll take the bridegroom right out from under our noses. With chains like that, you can't let things go on their own. The friends went out into the hall, and Maria, trying to sound as nonchalant as possible, asked, "Why are you laughing so sweetly?" Christina said, laughing in a funny way. She turned the screen of her phone toward Maria, and Maria almost fell over from what she saw. It was the same commercial where she was glowing with her pink parachute panties. God, what a shame. The girl looks so much like you, Christina commented and added with a look of surprise. Oh, it looks like you. Maria looked toward Kelly with a mute question. You're the one who said that. Like a telepath, her friend considered what she was being asked and shook her head assiduously. Like, no, how could you think? Indeed, Kelly would never mock her friend for anything. Honey, Kevin suddenly said, you're gorgeous even in such a ridiculous situation. Come, I'll kiss you, he said, and pressed his lips to Maria's. Kelly sighed in relief, happy for her friend, and Christina became an owl with annoyance. Kevin's birthday didn't go by without pesky rivals either. Her ubiquitous moms celebrated at a restaurant, and Christina outdid herself. She wore a sparkling evening gown. Her curly hair was gathered on top. She looked like a Hollywood star. Maria also looked elegant, but much simpler. The spectacular guest, and that made her feel out of place, as Maria thought so. However, her main trump card was up her sleeve, or rather, in the box, and the girl was impatient to present it to the honorable public, and most importantly to Kyiv Iron. Kristina has very good news. A surprise, Evelyn announced with a smile. Come on, sweetheart, tell me. Faking embarrassment, Kristina rose from her seat and announced I passed the interview and will now work together with Kevin in the same firm. Isn't that great? She said and looked at Kevin adoringly, then transferred her triumphant gaze to Maria, as if to say that she had eaten it. The birthday boy's face was impenetrable. Sincere congratulations, Kristina, he said politely. It really is a respectable firm. Everyone is welcome. It's a great start. Let's drink to that, Evelyn said with a smile. The guests clinked their glasses together, and together they drank. Everyone congratulated Kristina on getting a prestigious job. Yes, the smug girl shared her impressions. To get there is very difficult. The main thing is persistence, intelligence, and of course, higher education. So you, Maria, such a job is not a threat. You don't have a college degree, do you? Maria almost missed her lip with annoyance. Abruptly rising from her seat, she asked for attention. I have a surprise for Kevin too. Taking out a small ceremonial box, a little smaller than a shoebox, she handed it to her lover. What is it? Surprised the young man. Open it, Maria ordered with a smile. The guests froze in anticipation. Everyone was curious to see what would be inside the box. We ate with curiosity. Kevin opened it and pulled out yellow slogans, tiny on the smallest baby, then a pacifier, a diaper. You could tell by the look on his face that he didn't understand anything. But it was clear from Kristina Evelyn's face that they guessed what was going on. A shadow of disappointment and frustration ran across both their faces. Maria, you're pregnant, Kevin said loudly as he finally pulled the electronic test out of the box with the greasy plastic and the ultrasound photo, which showed a clear black dot. Congratulations, roughly Arthur squealed and raised his glass. Kevin rushed over to hug Maria. Tears came to his eyes. You look so happy, like you haven't been able to make a baby in 10 years. And now you finally are. Evelyn, what are you going to do? You're not going to get married, are you? We will, Kevin said, delighted with the unexpected news. My love, will you marry me? He said, turning to Maria. Of course, she replied, and felt as if hundreds of moths were fluttering in her stomach at the same time. Some of the guests shouted bitter. Some hurried to the windows with their glasses, and Kristina, her mother, and Evelyn continued to sit with their lips pressed together. But who proposes like that? Suddenly Arthur said, rising from the table. Yes, Kristina smirked. Didn't even bother to give him a ring. Look, how much of a swagger, Arthur continued, and getting down on one knee in front of Evelyn, opened in front of her a red box, from which instantly sparkled out of the black velvet. It's my favorite ring. Ever since you came into my life, it finally made sense. Only with you I realized who I really am. You're sweet, the most beautiful flower in the world. Let me be the gardener who makes you bloom even brighter. Evelyn, my dear, marry me. Without waiting for an answer, Arthur slipped the ring onto the dazed Evelyn's finger. Oh my God. Yes, yes, of course I will marry you, she answered after a brief pause. Did it really happen? She whispered, and you could hear the happiness catching her breath. It was Kevin's turn to be surprised, but he kept silent. Then he whispered in Maria's ear, well, I hope that now she will finally get on with her life and not interfere with ours. Towards the end of the evening, when most of the guests had already left, Maria came up to her mother Kristina and gave her a business card of the clinic. Maria, here are the coordinates of a very good doctor. If you want to have a perfect pregnancy, you should register with her. Maria thanked, took the card and put it in her bag, and immediately forgot about it. She remembered only 3 weeks later when it happened. For what could not live a normal life? The doctor at the antenatal clinic was throwing up his hands, and Maria decided to go to a specialist, suggested by her mother and her rival. Moreover, Christina no longer appeared in their lives. She realized that there was nothing more for her here. That's why Maria's resentments were gone. The doctor was a pleasant platinum blonde in her 40s, very well groomed, and obviously very attentive. It was a pleasure to talk to her. And her name was beautiful, Jenna Maria. With such a cab, I recommend to the hospital, Jenna advised. No one jokes with this, but the girl felt that she did not need to go to the hospital. That is why she insisted on staying at home. No matter how much the doctor persuaded her, no matter how intimidating, Maria did not go to the hospital and soon realized that she had done the right thing. True, at home she also felt bad. She could not do anything. There is, however, thanks to a cab, the goat missed her mother-in-law's wedding day. Evelyn pulled some strings to get her and Arthur married as soon as possible. Maria wasn't the least bit sorry she missed the holiday, especially as Kevin said it was boring to death. Arthur was the only one having fun. After a while, Kevin had to fly away on another business trip. Evelyn was unrecognizably kind. After the wedding, she offered her daughter-in-law to live with them in the summer house. The girl refused, remembering how molested her, but the mother-in-law insisted. Okay, thought Maria, at least fresh air to breathe. Wouldn't it be easier? Besides, it's a big house. I won't even cross paths with Arthur. At the villa, the mother-to-be did feel better. The only pity is that it will soon be September and the weather will not force her to go back to the city. If only Maria knew what misfortune lay ahead of her. The weather would have been the least of her worries. But now all she could think about was what dress she would wear to the wedding. Kevin had suggested a quicker wedding, since they were expecting a baby, but his sweetheart didn't want any celebration. With all the toxicosis, they decided to postpone what might happen. But one day Maria woke up to a terrible scream. At first she didn't understand what was wrong. A dog had run into their property. Indeed, the sound was as if a wounded wolf was dying. This scream was followed by another one so desperate. A frightened Maria came downstairs. On the floor in the hallway, Evelyn lay deceased. It felt like she was literally writhing in pain. The woman was screaming like a wounded animal. The phone was lying next to her. What is it? Maria screamed, running up to her mother-in-law. But she didn't answer. She just kept screaming and writhing in despair. It was as if an arrow had pierced through her. Kevin was dead. Quietly, Arthur came out of the kitchen. Kneeling in front of Evelyn, he tried to give her a glass of water, but the woman knocked it out of her hands. The glass flew aside, but didn't break. The water spilled over Arthur's splash. Evelyn struggled to get on all fours and crawled toward the desperado. She certainly looked like an animal now. Maria shifted her confused gaze to Arthur. For a moment, she thought she saw him smirking. Maria herself didn't immediately realize exactly what had happened. It was information that needed to be digested. Her fiancé, the father of her child, the closest man on earth, was dead. He would be buried as her mother had been buried. And again, just as then, everything that was happening seemed unreal. Grieved the girl. Terrible. Together with Evelyn, they sat on the couch, hugging each other and crying loudly. Their tears were as bitter as wormwood. Kevin's death was unexpected, ridiculous, and completely unfair. During the team building, it was decided to have a rafting trip down a mountain river. Everything seemed to be done correctly. Experienced instructors handled the team, but still there was this terrible tragedy. Kevin was a sporty, strong man and a good swimmer, but he could not cope with the anger of the violent rivers. Grief brought his daughter-in-law and mother-in-law together for a time. Evelyn herself was in charge of organizing the transportation of the body and the funeral. You have no business being pregnant with such things. Save yourself the sudden warmth, she said. You are carrying my grandson under your heart. The continuation of my son for a month after the funeral dragged on for a long time. If Maria had been asked to depict it as a drawing, the girl would have taken more black paint and a dense layer, painted a sheet of paper. It had not been so bad for her in a long time. Maria moved out of her rented apartment, lived with Evelyn and Arthur in their apartment. She hadn't gone to work since she started having sex, and her mother-in-law herself had lost some interest in her business. Kelly quit her job too and found a better one. She was now getting models ready for shows, working with famous brands. They seldom spoke to each other. Maria didn't want to put her friend in a dark mood, and Kelly just didn't have the time. She was entering a new phase in her life. One day, Maria returned from the doctor's and found an old friend, Christina, at Evelyn's. She knew at once that something was wrong. Her mother-in-law looked at her with a cold, hateful look. Was it true? She asked in an icy tone. What? I don't understand. Confused Maria. You slept with Arthur and you are pregnant by him. Strictly asked her mother-in-law. Evelyn, what is this ridiculous suspicion? The daughter-in-law protested. And how do you want me to understand it? Asked the woman, poking Maria in the face. The phone screen, which had a photo on it, where she and Arthur are kissing. Ah, yes, I didn't want to tell you, but Arthur was hitting on me, Maria confessed. I heard the indignant voice of an out-of-nowhere guy who came out of nowhere, and you were the first one to attack me. And I barely got away from him, always coming on to me. One man wasn't enough for you. And then, when I got drunk at the party, you took advantage of me and dragged me into bed with such a brazen lie. Maria didn't have an answer. If you don't believe me, let's have a DNA test when the baby is born. Suggested the girl that you want to have the body exhumed. Do you want to disturb my boy, who has suffered so much from you? Through her teeth, she asked her mother-in-law. Evelyn, wake up. What are you talking about? I have been faithful to your son. Christina all this time, gloating at the cornered rival, lifted from the couch and said, Aunt Evelyn, I know all my life, and I will not let any newcomer offend her. Campanella, showing her certificates from the hospital. I'm sure there's something wrong with the deadline too. She snatched the bag from the hands of the bewildered Maria, who was close to fainting with excitement, and reached for the certificates. Getting the exchange card, she began to study it. Well, look here, Evelyn, take the calendar and check. Kevin was on a business trip at the time. She couldn't get pregnant by him. I know for a fact. I recently went through my business trip files at work. Who went where and when was still at home. So how could Maria have that kind of time frame if Kevin was away at the time? I can't believe my ears. Maria looked at the card. Indeed, the deadline was 3 weeks different from her real one. How could this have happened? It's the wrong due date. I have a different one. I'll show you the certificates. I have them from the maternity clinic when I went to the beginning. They should be in the exchange card. The girl began frantically leafing through the thin file. She remembered that the discharge papers from her first doctor were here in the file, but they were missing. It was as if they had evaporated. I'll go to the women's clinic and ask them to reissue the certificates, she said. Let them examine me. Let them put me on time. Nonsense, answered Christina. Are you going to buy a certificate to cheat Evelyn? You are caught in a lie. You're all provincials like that. We come here to hunt the rich, but we got you. Thoughts were jumbled in her head. All she heard was Evelyn's voice. Go away and never let me see you again. My kindness to you is over. It's all your fault. It's because of you. Kevin didn't spend enough time with me all the time you were with me. You're the one who stole my son. Like a robot on autopilot. On her feet, Maria went to her room to pack her bags. When she came out dragging a suitcase on wheels and carrying a gym bag on her shoulder, she found the following picture. Arthur was on his knees in front of Evelyn, kissing her hands, begging her to forgive Arthur. What's so humiliating? Wouldn't you rather get a job? Maria asked ironically. The guy looked around and snarled angrily at the girl. Get out of here before I push you by the neck. You almost ruined my family. And turning to Evelyn, he proceeded to kiss her hands, whispering, "I'm sorry. I'm sorry, my love." Evelyn, like a statue, sat with a stone face, which did not express anything. It was as if she were dead too. She just didn't know it yet, and by inertia she was breathing and talking. Once out of the entranceway, the girl sat down on a bench to catch her breath. Soon the front door was open, and Christina came out into the street. Seeing her former rival, she smirked. "Well, did you get it? Is that what you want?" Gloatingly, she said, "You got your revenge. Well done." Tiredly spoke Maria. "You know that the baby is Kevin's, right? And that I did not sleep with Arthur. Admit it, you paid him. So what? He's our guy. He comes out of every situation clean. He'll bow down to Evelyn, she'll forgive him, and he'll be fine. But my references, as it turns out, I have a different deadline," asked Maria, knowing in advance the answer. "Or are you completely stupid?" Christina laughed. "Jenna and I wanted to nip it in the bud, but you were a bitch. Sneaky didn't let us put you in storage. You would have been left without a child there in no time. I've had enough of this cruel city, of these people with rotten souls," Maria said quietly to herself. She had to leave. She did not smash Christina's face. What was the point? For Evelyn to forgive, did she really need forgiveness? After all, the most important person isn't with her anyway. And there's no getting him back. No, it doesn't make sense. She should just move on. Maria knew she would not be able to get a job, not only because she was pregnant and employers did not like them, but also because she frequently felt unwell. The girl had some savings, and she could live on them for a while if she lived in a smaller city where prices were not as high. So the only right thing for her to do in this situation was to go back home to her grandmother's and buy them presents. Maria took the train and went to her hometown. Strange feelings she felt, walking along familiar streets. Winter had not yet begun, but there was already enough snow to crunch comfortably under her feet. Maria's heart clenched as she approached the old two-story house. Walking up the driveway, she went to the door of her apartment. Oh, that smell. It had seemed unpleasant to her before, but now it made her heart skip a beat. It was the smell of her childhood, of her former lives. Opening the door with the key was kind of awkward. So Maria rang the doorbell. No one opened. She rang again and then knocked again. Finally, she heard a heavy stomping sound. Who is there?" asked a faint old voice. It's me, Grandma Nancy. Open up." Maria almost screamed with excitement. "Maria, my child." The old woman groaned and hurried to open the door. When she saw the doe, Nancy, Maria noted with sadness that she had grown very old. But what surprised her even more was that the old woman was followed by 3 differently shaped strange cats and 2 shaggy, homeless-looking dogs. The girl wondered where all these animals had come from, and where had their cat gone. But she decided to leave that question for later. "How did I miss you, Grandma Nancy?" she said, hugging the frail old woman. "And we missed you dearly. So rarely did we hear from you. So seldom did Grandma reread." "Where is Grandma Clara?" Maria asked. Oh, Granny Nancy blushed. "She is lying there weak. Became leggy, walks quite badly. Everything hurts her." Maria hurried to visit Nancy. She was indeed lying in her bed. Maria was saddened to discover that the old woman had also given up a lot. Grandmother Clara could not believe her eyes at first. "Maria, is that you?" she asked, unable to believe her happiness. "I am Grandmother." I smiled through her tears. "Will you stay with us long?" "For now, forever. And then we'll see," Maria answered. "Grandma Clara, can you get up?" "I'll be fine. Air halva brought just right for your teeth, soft. Soft become I can. I walk a little bit with a stick and on the wall. It's hard for me, Maria. It's hard." All were turning old Granny Clara around. "And what kind of beast is this?" she asked, nodding at the guardian of some cabbage size, which indifferently stuck out their tongues, dragged at Maria through the overhanging eyes of a perfect squint and slit. "Oh, tired," waved her hand Grandmother Clara. That's when the little man disappeared. Nancy, a little crazy. First searched and searched for her, and then. But in their brought, says pity live souls die, and in the other world maybe even give a paw. But that's not all. Grandma Clara Nancy continued to complain. She started taking things out of the garbage, says she needs them all. Sometimes I give her a scandal, so she throws something away, and then she brings in new stuff and gets away with it. Maria sighed. Okay, tomorrow we'll deal with all this got company, she thought, looking at their beasts. Those, as if sensing they were no longer welcome, paid a little to the side. What are their names anyway? Maria asked, nodding her head toward the dogs. Nothing. Granny Clara smiled, struggling to get out of bed. Hey, you. That's what I usually call them, like the good old days. Maria drank tea with the grandmothers and told them everything that was on her mind. The old ladies were delighted that their child was going to have a baby. That's all right. We'll get her back on her feet. I'm sure, said Grandma Nancy. When they separated, Maria went to her room. It was so cozy here, so clean. I gather here every week, so you can come over at any time. And your room is at the ready, praised Nancy's grandmother. Maria hugged the old woman, wished her good night, and went to bed. In the morning, she woke up in full confidence that her new life was beginning. Since Nancy's grandmother had made it clear that there was no way she would get rid of the animals, Maria invited a veterinarian to the day who treated the animals for parasites. He also gave her the contacts of a high school student who moonlights as a private homer. Way to go, girl. She made up her own business. Maria mentally praised the girl and asked her for help. The girl came with a helper younger sister, a schoolgirl of 13, and together they cleaned up and washed the terribly wild cats. Nancy's grandmother really did her best. These cats were the ugliest in the whole town, miserable and beaten by life. And where did the old lady dig them up? They looked even worse when I brought them in. I was the one who took them out to feed them, Granny Nancy proudly announced. Come, Maria, have dinner. I made such a borscht. The rest of Maria's days passed in a domestic provincial network, which brought joy to the girl and comforted her soul. She took care of the grandmothers, and the grandmothers took care of her. Maria noticed how the old ladies blossomed in her presence and became more vivacious, and how inspired were they by the preparations to meet the baby. How excited were they when the furniture and drawers arrived and the crib was assembled. Nancy's grandmother took us in circles around that crib, and Grandma Clara, who was having a hard time standing for a long time, was looking at the cover from her room, sidling up to make herself more comfortable. Maria made Grandma Nancy throw away half of the junk she brought from the garbage dump. But the old lady didn't want to part with the animals. The girl was very nervous when she took the tests. She was very afraid they would find out she had some kind of Dachshund plasma. But luckily that did not happen. She was perfectly healthy and gave birth to a healthy baby girl on her due date. Maria wanted to name her after her mother, but her grandmother protested. Your mother had a hard fate. Such an inheritance for a baby girl is not necessary. And then Maria found a compromise. She named the baby Kathy. Little Kathy was a carbon copy of Kevin. After the birth, Maria was euphoric. Taking care of the baby was easy for her. But after a month, something shifted in her mind. Everything became irritating. The young mother was nervous about everything. She started to lose her milk. She had to give her formula. And then there was the colic. Sleepless nights. One day she just couldn't get out of bed. The little girl screamed her head off while lying in her crib, and Maria was suddenly overwhelmed by a feeling of universal indifference. It was as if she was pressed to her bed by a stone slab. There was no strength to get up. While Kathy cried, shouted Grandmother Clara from the next room. At first Maria did not answer her, but after Grandmother Clara shouted her several times, she replied monotonously, I hear. I can't get up. What do you mean you can't get up? The baby is hungry, and you can't get up. Surprised Grandma Clara. Nancy called out to her friend, the old woman. She is not here. She went to the market for cottage cheese. Maria said indifferently, "Oh, you mother, give it to the wolves." Angrily grumbled Granny Clara. But nothing. Small, affectionate, but she spoke loudly so that Kathy could hear. "Now Grandma will get up. Feed very long and hard." Grandma Clara got up with a creak in the bed, reached the crib with Kathy, and through her tears said, "I can't take you, little one." Not enough strength, hands shaking, dropped it. "Wait, Grandma Nancy, she is tougher than Grandma Clara, ruined old. Now, sweetie, I'll cook you hard." Hot Granny Clara headed into the kitchen. Maria looked down at her swollen, bubbly legs and burst into tears. She felt incredibly sorry for this poor old lady who had gathered her last strength to prepare the baby's formula. Maria mentally threw off the slab of stone and heavily, rising from her bed, took the baby in her arms. "But my good mommy is there for me." That same day, she called Kelly Rescue, she said, and cried, "I think I have postpartum depression, pick up snot. You'll live to see me tomorrow. I'll come in the morning and take you to the doctor," Kelly said. The friend was a man of her word, said I would come in the morning, and arrived at 7:00 a.m. She was already on Maria's doorstep and apologized as well. "I'm sorry I didn't come yesterday. I'm a servile man. I can't just up and leave." "Oh, really, girlfriend? You're not really helping me," answered the young mother. The old ladies were very afraid that their ward would leave them again for a long time. But Kelly authoritatively promised that she would bring Maria back the same evening. Kathy, of course, had to be taken with her, along with all her dowry bottle, diapers, and her first toys. With a lot of help, Kelly made an appointment for Maria with a very good therapist who prescribed her treatment. "You did well to go to a specialist," he praised Maria. Many people are ashamed or ignore the problem. Hence, the saddest consequences can be, but just a change of scenery lifted Maria's spirits. She divorced, chatted with her friend, and began to smile. When they went into a cafe for a bite to eat, Maria realized that Kelly had a story on the tip of her tongue, but she was hesitant to tell it. "Kelly, if there's something you want to tell me, tell me." Calmly, she asked. "Really, you can. That's Evelyn's business. Go ahead and let her friend." In general, our karma caught up with Evelyn. She was cheated. He made her take over the whole business, and even the apartment. And he didn't work alone, but with a couple. You know who? Christina. He didn't have enough brains in his own head to pull it all off. But that's not all. Christina's mother, whom Evelyn called a friend, was helping this con man. Anyway, somehow Evelyn was left with only the dacha. Everything else was taken. But that wasn't all. Kelly went on to say, "Evelyn, when she found out that she was betrayed by her lover and her friend almost went crazy, they took her away in an ambulance. Anyway, your mother-in-law had a stroke. I can honestly tell you, I was at her hospital after all, not strangers. She as a person gave me a ticket in life, taught me a lot in her salon. So I saw her condition, a pathetic sight. Mouth on its side arm leg does not move, speaks poorly, but understands everything. Of course, there was no trace of our old Evelyn. She looked very old for her age. Now she needs rehabilitation and all sorts of massages. And she has no money for a nurse. I paid for additional staff services, but I myself, I can't afford my former boss. God, what a horror." Maria exhaled. "Frankly, I did not expect such a reaction. I thought you would be glad," Kelly admitted. "She did treat you like that after all, did she? I mean, she's got a temper, and she didn't like me. But it was Evelyn who saved me when I was in trouble. You should have seen how she felt about her son's death. And then there's another blow. Hey, you know what? Why don't we go see her at the hospital? I'll show her my granddaughter," Maria said. "Well, let's go. As long as we don't run out of office hours," Kelly agreed. When they arrived at the hospital, they went to Evelyn's room without any problems. The woman, however, looked aged and weakened. She could barely move and was dressed in a simple shirt and an unsightly robe, apparently a hospital gown. Under her bunk stood a vessel. She could see that she understood everything. Mamé tried to say her daughter-in-law's name. Maria sat down beside her and took her hand. "Look who I have brought you." "This is Kathy," Maria said, and gestured for Kelly to pass the baby to her. "Is this what we are?" the girl said, showing her daughter to her grandmother up close. Some strange wave ran across Evelyn's sickly face, and she tried desperately to speak it out. "Yes," Maria nodded. "A copy of Kevin." "Say, Grandma, hello," said Maria Kathy, and gently shook her chubby hand as if she were a baby. Masha herself, that grandmother, tears rolled from Evelyn's eyes. Just then, a doctor entered the room. He told the visitor about the patient's health and asked when they were going to take her, because there was no point in keeping her any longer. And there was no one to take her and nowhere to go. Kelly answered simply. "What do you mean, nowhere?" Maria interrupted her. "What do you mean, you can't help anyone move?" Kelly nodded silently. "Get the discharge ready, doctor. I'll pick her up in a couple of days." At first, the grandmothers argued with Maria. They didn't want to move anywhere. The girl didn't know how to convince them. But suddenly, she found the granny's leverage. Can you imagine what a beautiful garden there is? And what air near the pine forest? And imagine how much space there is for dogs and cats. How happy they will be there. And there is a stove. The grandmothers became interested. After much bickering, they still agreed to move. Of course, Maria had the idea of moving Evelyn into their communal apartment. But then she decided that it would be more comfortable for all of them to live in the country, in the fresh air. Thank God Arthur's villa was not taken. Also, the old ladies took Maria's promise that if they didn't like something, she would take them back immediately. And Grandma Nancy demanded to take all her belongings, which she had worked so hard to acquire. Anyway, Maria thought she would move in 2 days, but it ended up taking a week to pack and move. "It's good that you came," the doctor said when he saw Maria again. "Your mother was beginning to get nervous, wasn't she? She thought you had cheated her, and she is not allowed to worry." The doctor instructed in detail how to take care of the sick woman, and Maria moved her mother-in-law to the dacha, where the old ladies and their tails and hordes had just been brought. The beds for Evelyn had to be moved to the first floor, and the couch that was already there turned out to be relaxed. A bed was arranged there for Grandma Clara. Nancy's grandmother was still able to go up to the second floor. Maria and the little girl occupied the room of Clara the girl. It seemed to still hold his scent. At first, the old ladies kept grumbling, displeased with something, and Maria began to fear that they would demand to take them back together with all their belongings. But soon the grandmothers became so accustomed that they wished to stay here forever. One late afternoon, when everyone had gone to bed, Maria needed to go to the kitchen to get water for the baby. As she went down the hall, she heard an interesting dialogue. It was Grandma Clara and Evelyn talking. The old woman was excitedly telling Evelyn about her life, and the latter moved back sympathetically. They have become friends, Maria thought with a smile. Every day, she diligently followed the doctor's orders, prepared dietary meals for Evelyn, gave her medicine, exercised and massaged. Even Grandma Nancy and Grandma Clara helped care for her. After about a year, Evelyn was already walking on her own, albeit with a cane, and talking quite well. She loved the fact that she now had such a large, friendly family. She adored petting cats. One of the dogs even managed to teach her commands. But most of all, of course, she adored her granddaughter Kathy. "The older they get, the more like Kevin," she said, looking at the adorable girl. In spite of all the difficulties, Maria has blossomed and looked prettier this year. Kelly even threw her a job. A photo for the clothing catalog section. When mother and daughter dress in identical outfits, Kathy turned out to be a natural-born model, and she and Maria looked great in tandem. The clients were thrilled with their photo shoot, and several times Kelly set her up with people who needed custom costumes for living statues and other events. The work was insanely interesting. One day, to find some free time, Maria went with Kelly to a cafe. She told her about her successes. Who is she working with? There's a show coming up. A talented young designer. I even have a photo with him and his model. Maria Roth opened her eyes when she saw the picture. It's Tim, isn't it? Remember Tim? Wow, what a coincidence. Kelly was surprised. Well, then I'll have to take you to the fashion show. No, I think I'll pass. Maria protested. I have no one to leave Kathy with, and you take her with you. There's a flamboyant crowd there that likes to carry accessories, dogs, all sorts of kitties, and bald children. You just have to dress her unusually. After thinking about it, Maria agreed. In just one day, she sewed herself a spectacular evening gown. This time from a new sturdy fabric, so as not to repeat that legendary embarrassment. She made similar collars for her dresses and made both of them extravagant hats with feathers and a veil. And Maria also found among her things the very jacket that Tim had once thrown over her shoulders. The girl decided that this same jacket would be a wonderful addition to her image, and at the same time it would be a nice reminder and a thank you to Tim. The show was a chamber one. There weren't many people there. It turned out that this was more of a pre-show before the international competition. Not surprisingly, Tim immediately noticed Maria. He had changed. He had matured, the girl thought. During the break, Tim was the first thing he did when he approached his former classmate. Maria, what are you like? I am delighted. The dress is chic, he said, smiling broadly. What are you talking about? I'm the one who's excited. You made your dream come true. You became a designer. I'm sincerely happy for you, Maria said. By the way, do you know your jacket? I'm sorry I didn't give it back to you. Really? Tim laughed. I'm glad you keep it. By the way, you can auction it off, because it was the main character in that famous commercial, even though he wasn't the main character. Better yet, wait until I'm famous. Then you can sell it for even more money. What are you going to sell already? Honey, asked a thin, tall girl who came up to Tim. She was very pretty and in some ways even resembled Maria. Oh, little chicken, this is my old friend Maria, from my school days. And this is Emily, my wife, Tim said. And the girls smiled hello at each other. You got married? With a note of surprise and disappointment, Maria said. Yes, she surrounded my head, Tim confessed, and kissed his wife, and kissed her again. She laughed in return. Happy birthday to you. Maria sincerely wished him. She was about to leave when Tim stopped her. Kelly was showing you the costumes, the models. I see you've been keeping up with her. She also told me your story. How do you take care of your grandmothers? You don't abandon your mother-in-law. Maria, I always knew something special. I want you to work. With me, you're a talented person. You're bound to achieve a lot. But you need support at first. I have your number. I'll call you tomorrow. Tim wasn't lying. He did call Maria and offered her a good, lucrative job, the business that Maria was passionate about, and now she had an adoring child. An interesting job, a beloved grandmother, a mother-in-law beside her, with whom she had finally found common ground. She also had good, loyal friends. True, on a personal front, Maria was so far in the doldrums, but is it worth worrying about that? Maria was very young. In addition, she had not yet cried her husband to the end. It didn't seem fair to her to enter into a relationship by assigning a man a band-aid for a wounded soul. But Maria believed that very soon she would be in for a great big love. The main thing is not to make a fuss and not to squander it on trifles, but to do what her big, kind heart tells her to do.